Alright guys, TacticalRab here and today, hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big news ahead of the World Championship this upcoming weekend. Big rumours over the last couple of days as to what FormaL's plan is going to be, whether he's going to return to competitive Call of Duty after this year of Halo. Scump says not a chance that he's going to do this, especially not a chance that he's going to join the OpTic Texas lineup for next season, but who knows exactly what's going to be happening there. Also big rumours as to what's going on with Ravens. They are trying to form their team without Priestahh for the Esports World Cup. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Likely only going to be able to make one video today because I am currently at the airport and I'm about to get a flight in a couple of hours over to Dallas. It's a long one over here from London. It's like a 10-hour flight, and there was loads happening in Valorant as well today, so I have to make a video over there. So probably just one video on the COD channel today, but I will say it's not like there's been a massive amount happening in Call of Duty lately. The excitement and the hype for the Call of Duty World Championship has not exactly been mega. I know we've seen some of these kind of graphics put out by Heretics, by OpTic, by others, but I don't think Crone is wrong when he says like the hype for champs isn't maybe what it used to be. I feel like we had this same conversation last year to some extent, but I don't know, it's champs, but it's kind of playoffs, right? It's not the same like 32 team bonanza that we used to have back in the day, and it doesn't maybe quite feel the same. I don't think the CDL has done the best job promoting it either, because they did those tweets every day saying like, oh, you know, here's Heretics, here's Surge, the seeds going into the tournament. Then they just stopped doing it for the top teams. Hasn't really been so much hype around the fact that we've had 4 events this year, 4 different winners. You know, there are good storylines going into this World Championship. Yes, OpTic didn't perform so well last major, so obviously it's a Dallas event. There were questions about that, but yeah, it doesn't maybe quite feel the same as it used to. I don't know if you guys agree with that assessment, but you know, Roddy says the same thing. Is there, you know, is the energy really there? I think there's an argument to say that if there was one more major cycle, we had a major 5, then we had the World Championship, things would be different. But I don't know, the CDL just isn't maybe what it used to be. We talk about it compared to the CWL, of course, all the time on this channel, to be honest. There's also some other problems with what's going on in the major, because Cruise, it seems, is going to be there for the World Championship, and those guys are going to be playing on the Challengers side. But as he says, there are 4 total setups at Champs, so no warm-up area or ability to scrim between matches. So it's actually impressive how they might have managed to mess this up, that, you know, obviously only 16 teams are even there, so you'd only really need 8 stations. I mean, you go to the Toronto Challengers event, the Boston Challengers event, there's, you know, tens and tens of stations they've got set up, and it's an incredible accomplishment. They've only got 4 setups at Champs, apparently. So the Challengers guys, okay, well done, you can play your matches, but at the same time, but you can't warm up, you can't scrim between games. What are you doing? Like, are you setting up your own practice facility back at your Airbnb and you're going to practice out of there? I don't really know, but this is not usually how it is, and if that is true and they can't resolve it, bit of a concern, because, you know, might put a slight asterisk on the tournament if you've got problems occurring such as this. Quickly on the Ravens as well, we saw they released Priestahh not long ago now, and the rumour has it they're now in the process of looking for a 4th player. Now, this is interesting in the sense that they've not released anybody else. We haven't really, apart from Boston, they dropped Priestahh, they dropped Beans, they got rid of Major Maniac, of course, and also Pentagrxm. They've kept Snoopy. They're looking for 3 for the Esports World Cup. The question, I suppose, is, will they wait post-World Championship to try and see if there's any players there that could be available, which I suppose is definitely possible, or will they have a slightly different approach of potentially signing someone sooner, which is maybe what Ravens are looking to do. But I think for the Ravens side, looks like indeed they are going to be keeping their other 3. So Felony, TJ and Gwyn, looks like that team of 3 is staying. Now, I wouldn't say that it's a guarantee that that team of 3 starts next season on the Ravens. Not from both sides, really. One of which from Ravens, whether they'd keep that trio, depending on how they do at the World Cup, but also the likes of Gwyn, maybe even the likes of TJ, possibly. I don't think so much for Fellow, but definitely Gwyn and TJ could be targets of other teams. TJ was really good, I thought, this season on MW2. Gwyn was their best player, certainly online through the majority of the season, and potential Rookie of the Year winner, certainly candidate. Gwyn should be considered elsewhere. Now, he's on a contract. They're going to have him signed to an extension, Ravens, but nonetheless, other teams potentially could come in and try and get a bit of a deal done there if they paid a bit of a buyout, I suppose. And who knows if Ravens as an org even exists next year. There's been lots of talk about a number of organisations looking to buy CDL spots, and before expansion happens, I imagine those teams will simply buy up the poverty orgs, would be the theory. So anyway, Ravens are looking for a fourth. Merc. Now, this is not Handsome Merc, i.e. Joe DeLuca, i.e. the caster Merc and Maven. It's Mercules, I think is short for. Now, he's not been playing for very long, but a player that was notable in the recent Last Chance qualifier. Played with Neptune over there and has apparently been at least having a trial, but it's not going to be the only one. So they're taking their time to figure what to do, but that's pretty interesting. Before we talk about the formal stuff, though, there were some updates yesterday on the Black Ops 6 multiplayer side, in what they were calling like the COD pod or something, a new COD podcast, classic stuff, and they talked a few things, you know, allowing players to loop score streaks and this type of stuff. However, this was probably the most interesting piece really on the Omnimovement, right? It's been a big talking point of the new title. This new movement system, it's not even a mechanic, it's an entire system whereby instead of just sprinting forwards, you can sprint sideways as well. If you dive into cover, your character can naturally turn over rather than getting like weirdly stuck and having to turn around. Apparently, according to Kenny anyway, having played the game, after playing it for a while, you'll think, wow, how has this never been a thing before? And his feeling is this is, should become a staple of COD, or it's just going to make the gameplay a lot better. Now, there was, of course, some debate on Omnimovement when it was first revealed as to whether it would be allowed or not. Scrappy was making the point that, yeah, maybe Omnimovement, it's got to be banned, it's got to be GA'd. The pros are going to decide between them that, yep, this is, it's a bit cheesy, it's maybe benefiting some players more than others. And this is one of the other things with gentlemen's agreements, is that let's say you're looking at Shotzzy, you're looking at HyDra, you're looking at aBeZy. Now, every pro has good movement, but some pros do have substantially better movement than others. And maybe you are 9 of the 12 CDL teams, and you say, well, those 3 teams, they stand to benefit more than most from a more advanced movement mechanic. Why would we not just GA it so, we kind of level the playing field for ourselves? And that's one of the problems with GA, is the gentleman's agreement, is that the teams can be incentivized to ban something that might not be overpowered or problematic in any way at all, but nonetheless is potentially benefiting certain teams more than others. However, Treyarch basically say it ain't going to be a problem because you cannot toggle it on and off, which is interesting because in the trailers they showed it with it on and with it off. So the setting is probably in there somewhere deep down in the game files, but publicly or even in private matches, I suppose, it will not be possible to change whether Omnimovement is on or whether it's off, which I think is actually an excellent thing, because if it's as good as people are suggesting that it is, and also like when jetpacks came out, it wasn't possible just to turn off the jetpacks. I know there was like one mode down the line where maybe it was possible to do so, but when you played Advanced Warfare, you played with the jetpacks. That's just how it was. And if you didn't have to use them, right, you could run around on the ground if you wanted, but they were always there and you couldn't turn them off. So, I think that's probably for a good reason, and I'm sure that Shotzzy and others are going to be pretty happy about this, because there was some concern that the pros might go too far in terms of dealing with this, and they're simply not going to be able to. So they will have to play the game, at least on that aspect, out of the box, which I think is probably better for everyone in this moment. Today, by the way, this evening, I'm imagining, OpTic are going to drop a process episode. So we'll see how long this one is. We'll see what exactly is talked about and said, just because we know that it's not been an easy time for OpTic for the last couple of weeks. Their Major 4 run was not ideal, and OpTic say, look, all can be forgotten going into the World Championship. I wonder if they're going to say anything in this about the whole FormaL thing as well. They may not, but it's possible that they could, because FormaL recently talked about his retirement from Halo. Maybe there's going to be a bit of a teaser about that in here. I guess we'll see. But he did mention FormaL the other day now, planning on competing professionally in Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Now, whether he was being serious here, whether this is actually going to be happening is another question, but as we said at the time, if he does want to return, his ideal would be, of course, to play for OpTic again. He doesn't necessarily, I don't think, want to leave OpTic unless he could get loaned out somewhere, but even then there's questions on whether they would be so happy with that being the case if he was to join another good team in the league. So, FormaL, if he was going to do it, you'd think he'd want to play for OpTic, but the question is whether that's even going to be possible, right? So Scump was here with Nature, right? He was playing Valorant on stream and they were discussing things here, and yeah, Scump was talking about this from FormaL, because FormaL had made the comment a few months ago on stream that he was going to call it a day from Halo, and that does seem to be a fair and legit comment. I don't think really people's mindset has changed on that belief. It feels like for FormaL, 3 years of Halo from, after the Cold War season to now is probably enough given the state of Halo. But the question was he going to return to COD? And Scump's opinion is, look, it probably ain't going to happen. This guy's just smoking the pack on this one. But still, if he wants to do it, it is, I guess, possible. It's just joining OpTic seems rather unlikely.
Oh, yeah, FormaL smoking penis. He's not coming back. Form's coming back to
Everyone in my
COD?
chat saying that fucking Ken's gonna get dropped for FormaL next year.
It didn't say. Wait, didn't that Chris say he was kidding at the end?
Well, I mean, again, Matt, like probably a month ago, just a random stream. We were just playing together randomly. I mean, it's the first time I play with him forever, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm retiring from Halo," and I was like, "Whoa,
He's on
run
a
that
troll
back."
parade right now.
I was like,
"Are you serious? Anything he says right now?"
The public outbreak. Saying he's coming back.
He's just seeing all these accounts pick these up, and he's just saying whatever. He's
I mean, you got to keep people on their toes. Shit, I might come back. Fuck it. Let's go.
Still playing his deathmatch.
And of course, there was further talk as well not that long ago about, okay, if FormaL was to come back to OpTic, who does he replace? You know, is it Dashy? Is it Kenny? What's the theory there? What does the team think as well? Like, okay, we think that Shotzzy probably has the keys to OpTic. That's usually the discussion. And if that is the case, then does Shotzzy want that to happen, right? Like, is Shotzzy down for FormaL to come back in, or is he not? What does he think on the situation? So, you know, there are some questions on that, but it seems pretty unlikely to me, but who knows what the off-season's going to bring. I think it's going to be an interesting off-season. It's probably not going to be a crazy off-season like we had last year with every single team changing, but at the same time, there are the potential this year for 2 different Rostermania periods, whereby teams can make changes going into the Esports World Cup, and then following the Esports World Cup, then things can happen. But also, I will say, timing for FormaL could be an issue here if he wants to return, just because FormaL's Halo World Championship is in like October, isn't it? Something like that. And by that time, the teams for next year will basically have been formed already, because Esports World Cup middle of August, so you'd think middle of September most teams are formed, and then FormaL isn't necessarily in the mix until then, unless he actually, if FormaL really does want to actually try and make this happen, finesses his way before then, right? While he's practicing with Halo, while he's getting ready for the World Championship, maybe he's already finessing his next move back to Call of Duty, but Scump feels like it's rather unlikely. This was kind of interesting though. Who has won the most tournaments in the Lone Star State? Scump has won 5 tournaments in Texas, then FormaL at 3, Karma, Crim. Not many of these players are actually still active, and you know, so Attach at 2, but he's not going to be at this year's World Championship, and you know, Clay, the same applies there as well. These are players that are active, that have won a tournament, that are actually competing it in Texas. Lots of these guys, of course, winning, let's say, you know, the Texas event over the last couple of seasons, such as those OpTic guys that won that Texas event at the start of Vanguard, for example. And yeah, these are all of the relevant tournaments. So either the National Championship back in 2010, a number of championships during the MLG days, UMG, Dallas's CWL. Dallas is, of course, CDL Fort Worth also counts in 2019. And then since then, there have been a few majors based out of the Esports Stadium Arlington, or, of course, well, pretty much that's where it's been so far at these majors. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Just one final thing to mention. This is the schedule for the World Championship here. So these are the order of the matches. We talked about them in some detail yesterday. It's going to be a 3 p.m. Eastern time start, which is the standard start time for a normal kind of regular season games. Usually, though, it's a 1:30 p.m. start for the majors. But for the World Championship, there's fewer games to be played just because of the format of the tournament and stuff like this. Only 8 teams there in attendance. So they're starting in at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is actually going to be 2 p.m. local time, right? So, yeah, it's going to be early mornings for me, as always, getting the videos ready in time for that. But, you know, that's going to be fine. We're going to power through. But anyway, these are the schedule, and I'm sure that OpTic are going to be sitting there thinking, like, are we serious? We're playing last again. But to be fair, in this case, OpTic are technically the bottom of the bracket, right? So there's 4 games, and they are technically the, you know, the lower side and the lower game of the lower side. But realistically, I think that OpTic have probably been put last somewhat deliberately here by the league, as is quite usually the case, and maybe they won't be so happy about that one. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Promise you, the accommodations and the experience that Seth and Izzy gave us, it was something out of a dream, brother. This wedding was truly the most beautiful event I have ever been to. Guys, this venue, it's straight. This guy Zinni in the bus, as soon as we started pulling up to the estate, he started playing the Secession theme song. That was such a good shout from him. It was stunning, man. His mom gave such an incredible speech. She gave Gracie a shout out. Seth's new in-laws, they gave beautiful speeches. The ceremony was just full of love and happiness, and I could not be happier for Seth, and I'm so excited to move to Texas and keep letting this friendship flourish, man. I'm so excited to spend more time with Izzy. We partied, we drank, we laughed, we ate, we took photos. The DJ killed it. I got to hang out with Hector's family, talk all about anime with his daughter. We're thinking about all going to Japan together. we left on the first shuttle just because we were exhausted, and then we had a travel day coming up. And man, I'm so happy for Seth. This guy got on the dance floor and burned the whole fucking roof down. I mean, you remember that clip of him and I dancing in the OpTic house? This guy was hitting moves. He did the worm, bro. He looked like fucking Jordan Belfort off of Quaalude, brother, in a good way. This guy's just he's like a golden retriever in the best way. I'm not calling him a dog. He's just happy. He's so happy always, and you just want to be around him. And you could just feel the love in the room. I'm so glad that I didn't have anything like the international traveling hold me back from going, because it just reminded me how much I love my wife, how much I love my friends. It was incredible, man.